Hi, John with eTrailer. If you are looking for an easy way to add trailer wiring to your Malibu, check out the Curt T-connector custom wiring kit. It's on our 2023 Chevrolet Malibu. So this trailer wiring kit is going to give you the connections that you need to be able to tow a trailer with lights, and it's going to give you the running lights, left and right turn signals, and brake. Now, this is one of those kits. It's super easy to install, and it lives in your trunk. All the connections are made back here. It's powered from your vehicle battery. It has a converter box on it. What that does is it takes the signals from your car, uses your battery power to power the lights on your trailer. This way, your vehicle components like the electrical system, all of that is protected in case of a ground or a short or something like that. So like I said, it lives in your trunk back here. When it comes time to tow, this wire is designed to come right over the rubber threshold here. Just keep away from the lock mechanism up here and the bump stop here. That's the only thing you gotta watch. And then close your trunk, make your connections to your trailer, and you're ready to tow. This is a very easy option to install on the Malibu. This is, I like this kit. You can install it with pretty much basic hand tools and probably a lot of the stuff you have at home. So if you want to see how we installed it, stick around, we'll show you. Let's get started on our install. First thing we're going to do is get in the trunk here, and we need to remove the spare tire cover. This is just going to give us access to where we need to be. Next, we're going to remove this center scuff guard here. I've just got a small screwdriver, and there's a notch in the center plate here. We're going to take this out. It does expose 2 bolts, but we're going to leave those alone. All this does is it gives us more room to pull this out because we kind of have to lift up and get it over these tabs here at the same time. Just take your time as you do this. This one is a little stubborn, but you can see our plastic clips here. We have to pop that up just enough to be able to slide it forward. So there you go. Set this off to the side. Next, I'll take a trim tool. We have these available here at eTrailer as well, or you can pick them up at a local parts store. Get in behind this, pop these out. We've got 2 right here. And that'll allow us to peel this back. I want you to take notice of 3 things here that we're going to be coming in and zooming in on here. 1, this is the taillight connector where we're going to be making our connections with the wiring kit. 2, we have a ground right here in this corner that we're going to be using for the Modulite pack. It needs a ground. And 3, over here in the corner, you're going to see a rubber grommet on these Malibus. And we're going to use this location here for the power wire that we're going to be running from the front of the car at the battery back here to power the unit. So we have the driver's side exposed. We are going to do the same thing here on the passenger side. We have 2 push tabs again. We're going to fold this back. On this side, we don't have anything to worry about except the connector for the passenger side. So this is what we're looking for. I'm going to take this connector off the wall here just so you can see what I'm doing to disconnect it, make it easier to see. So you have a red locking tab here. We're going to slide this back. And then this pin right here, we pinch, and it'll come apart. We'll take our wiring kit, and we're going to be looking for the white, brown, and yellow wires right now. Now our white wire is going to be the ground, and we'll end up grounding that at the point that we talked about earlier on the frame ground. But for right now, we can take our connectors and just match them up. That'll go in there. That goes in there. Close the locking tab. I'm going to mount this back up here. You don't have to take this off. I just wanted to show you how the lock mechanism worked on that. We'll take our green wire. This is going to come over to the passenger side, and I'll run it behind the frame here, all the way across. You can run it any way that you can find over here, but the wire is limited. I found this is the best on these Malibus, just to run it back behind this, and later on you can either tape it down or zip tie it down. Now we'll do the same thing with this connector here. I have a 10mm socket, and we'll just pull this line down. We can loosen this frame ground. The last connection that we're going to make back here in the trunk is going to be the power line. Now this is what we run from the battery in the front of the car back to us back here. Earlier we pulled this grommet out. I'm going to feed the line up from the bottom. It's just above the muffler here. And then we'll take our grommet, and I'm going to use a razor knife and just cut an X into it. And we'll feed the wire through from the bottom and then reattach the grommet. Now we can take the butt connector that's supplied with our kit, strip the wire, and we'll crimp this on. Give it a tug, and then connect that to the black wire that's on the converter box. We have some spare airline tubing here that we have laying around the shop, and I like to use this when we're fishing wires through. You can use anything like this if you have at the house. Basically, we're going to feed this down from our power source here, down as close as we can get it to the firewall right now. If the routing isn't the best, then we can always adjust it once we get under the car, but this is going to give us a point that we can attach it to underneath, so we can pull the wire up through the engine compartment. Back here at the rear of the vehicle, we have our power line that we ran up into the trunk from earlier. Now, we're going to be running this up to the front of the car. We need to avoid things like hot surfaces like the muffler, sharp surfaces, and then rotating surfaces. And we're going to route it up through and underneath until we get to the pull wire that we fished down through the engine compartment earlier. I'm going to do that right now. So from the left back corner of our car over here by the exhaust, we ran it down, and I ran the wire behind this heat shield here. This is hot, and we don't want the wire getting in contact with the muffler. So I ran it around and up, and we came up over towards the center of the car here, because on these are going to pivot, and we don't want the wire anywhere near that. We went up and over and down on the left side of the car here, keeping in mind that just, zip ties along the way. You don't want anything too loose. And we just went ahead and used the factory parking brake cable routing location. These cars now have electronic parking brakes, so I went ahead and took advantage of this, and that routed our wire nicely up to the front. And I've attached it to our nylon tubing. We're going to pull that up in the engine compartment right now. Come back up here and we'll pull our wire up from underneath. For our power source, I removed the cover. It's got two locking tabs on either side on the battery here, and that's going to expose our hookups underneath here. We can either come here or here. The supplied ring terminal will fit anywhere on here. If you have trouble getting this off, I took a 10mm socket and loosened up the module right here, and this will kind of just slide up and out of the way, and that's if you're having trouble. This one on this car was a little tight, so that's what I did, and kind of loosened it up. So we can take our wire from underneath. You want to leave yourself enough room to tie it off somewhere, and that you have enough room to get up to the battery here. We'll snip that. And again, we'll take the supplied butt connector. And again, this one's high up on the engine compartment here. I'm not going to worry too much about moisture under the hood. And we'll take the supplied fuse holder, connect that to the butt connector. Make sure your fuse isn't in it right now when we're making up these connections. That'll just be the last thing we do. That way we don't have any problems shorting anything out. Now, I think for me, when hooking up the power wire, I'm going to do it up here on top because we're not going to disconnect the battery, and we just have a less chance of arcing out up here. So this is a 10mm socket I have. Get that torqued down, and then I took my pliers earlier and I cut a notch here and here on the outside. That way we can run our wire through, and it'll keep our fuse holder in a decent location here. We can replace this cover. And then if you took the 10mm bolt loose, go ahead and tighten that now. Now with all of our connections solid, we can install the 10 amp fuse that came with our kit. And then before we put everything back together on the car, it's a good idea to test our connections. So we have a tester here. We have these available here at eTrailer as well. It's just cheap insurance to make sure that everything that we've done is working properly and all the connections are good. So with a helper, we can have someone step on the brakes, turn on the turn signals and the running lights, and we'll make sure that everything's working correctly. So with your helper in the car, you can turn on the headlights and see that the running lights are working. You can apply the brakes, left turn signal, and then the right turn signal. Now with everything working properly, we can go ahead and mount the converter box and reassemble our car. Now to mount your converter box, you want to get the most length out of your trailer cord, so I definitely like to face that towards the rear. But this does come with two-sided tape, and it could stick here. We just know that in the past, the tape usually falls off, and then this thing's rattling around. So I like to take a zip tie. Plenty of zip ties come in this kit. And I go through the bottom hole and the top hole here. And we'll just zip tie this box in here. Now on our car here, this is all empty under here. So any loose wires under here you can secure with the provided zip ties. Of course, when you're putting the inside of the trunk back together, just keep in mind that this has to rest in the trunk somewhere. So go ahead and reassemble the trunk just like we took it apart. And that was a look at the Curt T-connector custom fit wiring kit on our 2023 Chevrolet Malibu.